basketball fans, welcome back. So in the previous video we talked about BAL season 1, went in deep, gave some insight on what really happened in there from start to finish, and in this video we'll be looking at the 2022 BAL season, also known as BAL season 2, which was the second season of the Basketball Africa League. The season began on 2nd March 2022 and ended with the finals on 28th May 2022. So the format changed, and you're just going to look into that in depth. So the group phase was played in the Dakar Arena in Dakar and the Hassan Mustafa Sports Hall in Cairo. So there were two venues in this play for the regular season. Then the playoffs and the finals were played in the BK Arena in Kigali for a second year in a row. So in the first ever inaugural season, we had the situation where it was a bubble format where every single team played in one venue. But in this case, you're seeing the Dakar Arena was at play, the Hassan Mustafa Sports Hall was at play in Cairo. So there are three separate venues. And in the BK Arena, this were all the teams that did well in the regular season collided in the playoffs and finals. So the Tunisian club, US Monastir, won the finals to win their first ever BL title. They won their first ever BL title, and this was coming after the previous year where they lost in the finals to Zamalek. They were able to get a title of their own, and it came at the hands of not even at the hands, but they were able to beat the Angolan club Petro de Luanda in the 2022 BAL finals. As winners, Monastir qualified for the 2023 FIBA Intercontinental Cup. So the format was different in this case. On December 9th, 2021, the BL announced the new format of the season with an expansion of the number of total games to 38. The 12 qualified teams are divided over two conferences of 6 teams, in which all teams play the other team once. So the top 8 teams from both conferences advance to the playoffs, which remains a single elimination tournament. So the format change, you had 2 conferences in there. Then the team allocations. On 13th October 2021, FIBA announced the 26 teams from 26 countries which will participate in the qualification round. Eventually 8 teams withdrew from the contest. So you had the whole road to BAL situation. My home country, Kenya, the Ulinzi Warriors went in but were not able to make it past the first qualifying round. And we just had a couple of teams from other nations who won the championship in their respective countries get into the mix. So the 12 teams for the inaugural BAL season had to qualify in the domestic competitions to be able to play in the league. Similar to the other FIBA organized competitions, 6 teams qualified directly as domestic champions. 6 winners of the qualifying tournaments qualify as well. So we had the 6 teams that directly qualified. Then we had the 6 teams who had to go through the road to BAL to be able to notch a spot to qualify. So it was a win to get in situation. So the qualified teams came out from the teams that qualified directly with a direct ticket and the ones that came from road to BAL. So on 22nd May 2020, Petro de Luanda was announced as the first qualified team in the 2021 BAL season. The Angolan FAB had abandoned the season due to the COVID-19 pandemic and awarded the team the place without naming it as the champions. So 4 teams made their debut in the competition. On January 14, 2022, FIBA Africa decided to exclude the River Hoopers as it stated that the Nigeria Basketball Federation failed to organize a national championship that year. So the BAL chose to give Saleh a direct qualification to replace the Nigerian team at that situation. RG qualified directly from the regular season as Rwanda hosted the playoffs and the finals. So you could see there were a couple of pieces that were moving in there. The 12 teams were confirmed by the BAL for the BAL on 9th December 2021. So Cape Town Tigers from South Africa, Cobra Sport from South Sudan, SLAC from Guinea, and SPR Cash from DR Congo all were the first teams from their countries to play in the BAL. So these were just first timers in there. But you could see the usual guys. You could see the Zamalek team was there. hailing from Giza, Egypt. DUC, we hadn't seen them. REG, the other team that was hailing from under the Patriots didn't make it. REG stepped in. Saleh checked in. We had SLAC, FAP, where they were in the first season, and now they're in the second season. Cape Town Tigers, SPR Fukash were the first timers in there, and they're making their debut. And DUC and REG, they're making their debut as well. And you could see Petro de Luanda, this was the second season that they played in, and they made the finals in there. And we're just going to look at that. And even going to the personnel sponsorship, you could see the personnel. The most notable was Coach Liz Mills. I can say notable because she coached the Kenya Morans team. She was dishonorably discharged in her tenure, and she landed a job coaching the Saleh team, who were just on that level. They actually made the playoffs at the time, and there were still foreign and elevate players that came into the roster. I'm gonna just leave that graphic on the screen so that you just take a look at it. And when it comes to even the qualifying tournament started on 21st October 2021 and ended in 16th December 2021. So with 23 teams from 23 countries participated, only 6 teams qualified in the group phase. So the teams that went through the road to BAL, that was the period where they were supposed to like notch a ticket in there, and they did. And at that time we were just waiting to see the announcement and on how the conferences are going to look like, because looking at on West Africa, you could see Dakar, where it's placed, is in West Africa, so that's the Sahara Conference. Then we have the Nile Conference that stretches through the river Nile, and at that point you could see Egypt were hosting. So in the Sahara Conference, the teams that were pooled in the Sahara Conference at the time, you had REG, US Monastir, Saleh, and SLAC. There were the 4 teams in there, but also Fevier Dabera and DUC were there, and it was just a bloodbath, especially in the Sahara Conference. I remember when I watched it live, I just covered every single game. But looking at the way REG played, REG and USM were the top teams in there, and they were the teams that really caused a stir, especially in the Sahara Conference. Out of the 6 teams, REG and US Monastir were just lethal. Saleh were just following in there behind. They had the services of Coach Liz Mills, and she was able to pull them up to a record of 3-2. And each team had to play only 5 games, and there was only 5 games, and they only had to play each other once. Then the venue for this Sahara Conference, and it was in the Dakar Arena. Then in the Nile Conference, we had the Zamalek team, Petro de Luanda team, Cape Town Tigers, FAP, Cobra Sport, and SPR Fukash. So the Zamalek and Petro de Luanda, they were there at the top, number 1 and 2, and Zamalek were yet to take a loss. This was the only team in the BAL in the regular season of the BAL that was yet to take a loss, and Petro de Luanda were just following in close. Then Cape Town Tigers, the first timers, they had a 2-3 record, and they had a similar record to FAP, but the difference was the point differential. Even that's the same thing in the Sahara Conference. REG and US Monastir, they had the similar record, but the point differential, even with the win percentage being the same, was the one that determined and made REG be there. And REG was the first team to qualify for the playoffs. Then after all that hoopla that happened in the regular season between the Sahara Conference and the Nile Conference, the teams got pulled for the playoffs, and the playoffs began on 21st May and ended at 28th May with the finals. All games were played in a single elimination format, and the entire tournament was played at the Kigali Arena. So you saw there were a couple of the venues. The Sahara Conference, they played in the Dakar Arena, the Nile Conference in Cairo, Egypt. Then they all converged to Rwanda, playing the Kigali Arena in Kigali. So in the quarterfinals, we had 4 series. We had Petro de Luanda versus AS Saleh, which edited Petro de Luanda won it 102-89. It was actually quite competitive because AS Saleh, they're not a team that was not shy to resistance, so they went in and fought in there. Then we had REG versus FAP. This is actually a shocker because REG finished the top of the group, the Sahara Conference, but got beat in the first round by 3 points by FAP. So FAP were just experienced, they just knew because they were already there in the BAL their first time in the first inaugural season, they knew how to conduct themselves, especially when it came to the playoffs. So they knocked out REG. Then we had Zamalek versus SLAC. This game had zero resistance, as Zamalek were able to win this game 66-49. Then you had US Monastir versus Cape Town Tigers. US Monastir had like a thorough beatdown on the Cape Town Tigers, 106-67, and they proceeded to the next round. Then in the semis, you had Petro de Luanda and FAP. Petro de Luanda and FAP was a very interesting matchup, but Petro de Luanda advanced to the finals. Then we had that rematch for the finals, Zamalek versus USM, but in this case it happened in the semis, and US Monastir got their revenge on Zamalek because Zamalek beat US Monastir in the first ever inaugural season in the finals to win the trophy. Then US Monastir got their revenge eventually, and they beat them in the semis by 7 points. The final score was 88-81, and US Monastir proceeded to the finals where they matched up against Petro de Luanda. Petro de Luanda, when I looked at it, that team at the time, they didn't look like they were the favorites, because the majority of the time I looked at a team like the USM team, the Zamalek team, or even REG being one of the favorites, but they just came in as a dark horse team at the time, and they won it. In the final score, they won the semis and they made the finals, but USM came in and won it, and they got their revenge on Zamalek, and they made sure that they won the title. And USM came in 83-72 was the final score. Then Zamalek and FAP played for the third place game, and Zamalek came and won it 97-74. So that game, that whole game, especially when it comes to like in the playoffs, I would actually, even I came in and just came up with a video and said, it would be much better if they tried to make it like a best of 3 series, so that at least we could be able to like gauge the performance of these teams, because it's actually quite difficult. You can have an off game, and a team just has an off game and just loses the whole regular season. But hopefully in the future they might change that. But in the awards this season, the Coach of the Year award and all defensive first teams were introduced and announced on 27th of May. The MVP and Defensive Player of the Year were announced on 28th May 2022. The BL Ubuntu Award for the player that made the greatest contribution to his community was awarded on 16th March 2023 after a fan vote. So we had the most valuable player. That was Michael Dixon from US Monastir. The Defensive Player of the Year, Ater Majok from US Monastir. Coach of the Year, Jose Neto from Petro de Luanda. He also coaches the Angola national team, and he has actually been quite spectacular at it. The Sportsmanship Award went to Anas Mahmoud from Zamalek. Then the Ubuntu Award went to John Jacques Chavozo from REG, and also John Jacques, he hit that a game winner in an REG game. I can't remember which one, but he was actually sensational in there. Then the All BAL first team, we got Terrell Stoglin from AS Saleh. He was balling out well. Edgar Sosa from Zamalek, Carlos Moraes from Petro de Luanda, Ramdan Slimane from US Monastir, and Ater Majok from US Monastir. So you could see US Monastir, they just produce like the best players that went into the BAL first team. And they had 2 players in the BAL first team. The other time they had about 3 players in there. The all defensive team, of course, he had Ater Majok. He won the Defensive Player of the Year. Gotta put him in there first. Then we got Wilson from REG, Chile Dandao from Petro de Luanda, Abubakar Agaku from Petro de Luanda, and Bryce Eaga Bidias from FAP. So these guys, this season I consider a huge improvement from last season, because it was much more structured. They separated into conferences, and it keeps on getting better. And they just built up on the first BL season, and they try to look for ways to make it better, especially with the pandemic slowing down and the venues just opening up. It just became much more easier to be able to like set up this event. Then the individual stats leaders, with this where I really enjoyed watching it. So we had points per game. You had Terrell Stoglin from AS Saleh. He averaged 30.8 points per game. Then in the rebounds per game, we got Mayarkir from Cobra Sport. He had 11 rebounds per game. Assists per game was the leader was Hamid Ali from DUC, 8.4 assists per game. Steals per game, we got Chile Dondao, and actually this guy, he made the all defensive team. He averaged three steals a game. Then Chris Obekpa, he averaged 4.6 blocks per game, and in blocks per game, he was just sensational. He played for SLAC at the time. Then turnovers per game and minutes played per game, we had Dane Miller Jr. from SLAC. He averaged 4.4 turnovers per game and 38 minutes per game. So this guy, man, is actually one of the reasons as to why the SLAC weren't able to deliver any meaningful wins in there. So in field goal percentage, we had two players. We had Mohamed Keita and Sofane Kodu, SLAC and Esale, respectively. These guys averaged 75% shooting from the field. On the 3-point percentage, we had Michael Dixon from US Monastir, 47.4% from deep, and from the free throw line, we had McKinney from Zamalek, 90.7 field throw percentage. And Terrell Stoglin, the way he averaged 30.8 points for Esale, his highest scoring total in that whole run, he had 41 points. That was like a season high. Mayan Kir from Cobra Sport, he had 22 boards. Hamid Ali, he had 15 assists. Chile Donda from Petro de Luanda, he had 7 steals in a game. Anas Mahmoud, he actually tallied 6 blocks. And Wilson from REG, 8 3-pointers. So that was actually one of those things that when I observed, especially when I was looking at the game, I was just looking at those career highs, and it was actually quite difficult to be able to put up those points because of the type of basketball that was being played there. It was actually quite different. It was not the same as the basketball we're used to seeing, especially in Road to Ball, but it was just elevated at the time. Then in the team statistics, is Saleh under Coach Liz Mills, 90.5 points per game. Espior Fukash, they averaged 47.8 rebounds per game. Assists per game and steals per game, they were taken by Petro de Luanda. SLAC, they averaged 4.8 blocks per game. And US Monastir, from shooting from the field and free throw line, they were actually the greatest. US Monastir, 48% shooting from the field and 75% shooting from the line. And one thing I must say with Saleh, with them even averaging 90.5 points per game, that 3-point percentage was the greatest, with 39%, shooting at a 39% clip. So that was insane to see. And the champions, US Monastir, they won their first title. They had their biggest home win, and it happened in the first round, where they beat the Cape Town Tigers by 39 points. And the team with the best winning streak was Zamalek. Before they got stopped, they had a winning streak of 6 games, and the highest attendance was the REG vs FAP game, with 7,576 people watching. So that was just a recap of the 2022 BAL season, and it just keeps getting better, as in the next video I'll be talking about the 2023 BAL. And as we wait for the season 4 that is going to kick off this year, I'm just very excited to see what type of basketball is going to be there, and there's just a lot to unpack in there. So if you guys like the video, make sure to leave your feedback down in the comments on what you think about this whole video, and I'm out. Peace.